my heart-centered changemaker. Thank you for downloading this resource so that you have a mindfulness-based social and emotional learning lesson. So this video I wanted to share because how often do we find ourselves stuck in our comfort zone, or when we're working with our students, that our students just are stuck and they're not taking risks in our classrooms. So I hope that this lesson is something that is helpful for you personally, and then also to share with your students. So what you'll see within this video is the importance of embodying those different practices first before sharing this lesson with your students. I do want to give a little bit of an overview of what it looks like so you are empowered to share these practices, but please know that if you have any questions or you want to dig a little bit deeper or tailor it to your students, please reach out at any time. You can email me at Lindsay with an E at thebutterflywithin.me, or any other avenue that is helpful for you. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now, this was inspired by a special request actually from a teacher as well, and I've noticed in my own practices and coaching and everything a common theme. So this is the resource that you have downloaded. It's called Expanding Your Comfort Zone. And so this model is really based off of, really it's unknown of who the main author was of the model itself. I've adapted it from different versions that I've seen and connected it to my own heart. But it's also based off of Vygotsky's work, as well as the learning zones. So when we're talking about our comfort zone, these are the areas that we're going to be really focused on, is our comfort zone, our growth zone, and then the expanded comfort zone, and then starting over and over so we can continue to expand. So let's see how our lesson unfolds here. So inside, you'll notice that you have a best practices review. What this is just making sure you have core practices already established within your classroom. Again, if these are some pieces that you're still working on and want to deepen and nurture a bit further, please feel free to reach out. And also just making sure that you understand the philosophy behind mindfulness-based social and emotional learning and how that is different than mindfulness on its own and SEL on its own. And the most important part, and that's why it's first in the box, is how we really do need to embody these practices first. That we really shouldn't be sharing the practices unless we have it within our own life. So how the lesson plan is structured is you'll have the goal, you have your main grade level. So this one really is for 4th grade and up, but you absolutely can adapt it to any level, as well as our own well-being as well. So the main goal for this is so that we can empower our students and ourselves to acknowledge our comfort zones, to develop the courage to step into that growth zone, and to establish the expanded comfort zone. And then to be able to continue to break through and grow again and again and again. So you'll also see that it's aligned to our CASEL competencies, but through the mindfulness-based framework as well. The vocabulary words that you might want to use or front load, as well as the materials. I do want to highlight those before we continue on here, just so you know what they mean in case they aren't quite clear. So the first one are supportive slides. So I do have a companion slide deck for this that you can use, and you can also modify so that it makes sense for your students. A circle talking piece and centerpiece. That's a part of the circle practices. I do have that in the lesson in case you are new to circles. And also a box, just a plain empty box. And that might be your circle centerpiece as well. Any size, any kind of box. And the 5-step moment script, that is a mindfulness script that has a practice with the 5-step moment routine that I've created. I've linked also a how-to video from my Instagram account that you can watch quickly so that you know how to do the 5-step moment. The comfort zone visual, which is also within the slide deck, and it's those circles that I had shared. A timer, chart paper, sticky notes, those little sticker dots or markers, and the expanded comfort zone reflection, which is included as the last 2 pages. That can be both, or you can choose which one you want to do with your students. So as you move into the lesson, you'll notice that there's a mindful transition. So before we ever start something, we want to make sure that we have an intentional transition throughout our day all the time. So this is a model for you that maybe you can integrate into your practices as a teacher or leader as well. And where it says step 3, within the 5-step moment, it's the 3rd step, which you'll find in that script, and there's prompting language that can inspire you to use to guide that part. There's the opening circle prompt, so again, following the circle philosophies and the equity piece there. And the circle really is, what would happen if someone only ever stayed in their comfort zone for their entire life? And some people do. So the purpose for this circle question is so that truly students and ourselves can understand the implications if we don't take that step, if we don't take the courageous actions in bettering who we get to be and growing who we get to be. Sometimes we get to choose, and sometimes things happen in our life that we don't get to choose. However, we still can grow from them, and it'll be taking us out of that comfort zone. So engaging in that circle practice there. Then for that lesson, this is where that box comes up, where literally that may have been your circle centerpiece. You'll have your box, and you'll invite them to just think about what a box means to them in their life, and eventually making that connection to in the box and out of the box thinking and living. And then dramatically fold up the box. You could even crinkle the box, recycle the box, get rid of the box, because when we are outside of our comfort zone and we get to choose that, we don't have a box anymore. We aren't thinking that way anymore. So just really making that concrete for students. I also link there an optional Forbes article, especially for the upper grades, that maybe you might want them to explore if you want to have an extension to this at any time. You can, if this is something that you want to do with your students, you can always adapt it through using AI like ChatGPT. You can put that in there and adapt it at the level that you need. So I just wanted to highlight those different pieces. As we continue moving on through here, what you'll have already prepared are 3 anchor chart papers that have the core circles. You don't need to do a 4th circle one, though you can, but that one is that additional growth and continuing on, so you don't need to have a 4th one there. And each one will be representing the zone. You'll have the title of the zone, so you'll have your comfort zone, your growth zone, and your expanded comfort zone. And so what you'll do here is you will just prompt students this verbiage here about noticing those different spaces within the graphic. And I do want to highlight a couple pieces in the graphic. I know it's small right here, but if you're looking, you'll notice that there is a space right here, and you'll also notice there's that box, right? So there's a box to represent, that's where we start from. We start from in the box. The stick figure is now out of the box and has that idea. And that idea of, I don't have to be in that box anymore. I don't have to stay in my comfort zone. And to be able to find that opening, to be able to move out from that comfort zone. But also noticing within that circle, we can still stay in that circle and also have the ability to come back. That's why it's open. So there's an ability to come back as things might get hard. We can always come back within our comfort zone. So you can have that verbiage. Now when we're into that growth zone, you'll notice that that stick figure now has a pot and a flower. And that is representing the growth and the steps and the learning along the way. That flower represents our learning. And we have to continue holding on to that. And that may not be easy, but that's a part of our learning. And then we find that opening in that one too. And it's a little bit smaller sometimes to find, but we find it. And then we get into this expanded comfort zone where now we are no longer where that box is, we're no longer in that comfort zone, we now have an expanded one, and that's our new starting point. And you'll notice that this stick figure has a pencil with an eraser. And what that symbolizes is at any time, we can be in control of when we can start using what we've learned, having creative problem solving to erase any part of that circle so we can break through it again. And that's why that last circle, that verbiage there is get ready to break through and grow again. And it's a lighter color. So then that just continues to be that verbiage that you can use throughout the year. You'll notice that there are reflection questions here. So I just wanted to give you that background on how you can interpret it, as well as verbiage in case you wanted to use that with your students. All right, so let me just move my tools out of the way here in case there's anything else down at the bottom. And I did want to just mention too, because I have to give that highlight as to why my company is really called The Butterfly Within, because it's really the butterfly within our hearts, and it's within the heart of education. We're embracing transformation, and our growth and our comfort zones, they're all a part of the process. Okay, so the next part here is an activity. And so there are two options that you can do. And what really this is for students to identify where they're at within that comfort zone, growth zone, expanded zone, because some are at different points and parts in their own life. So giving them that moment to really identify that. So there are two options for that, whether the sticky dots, and they can just put a dot on your anchor charts that you have after you've captured their ideas as a reflection within a group, which you'll find in that prior page. But then also the second option, you might have 3 sticky notes to each student, and they would write examples that would go in their own life up on those 3 anchor charts. So you can see how that feels and always adapt to what makes sense for you. And just have the class observe and notice any patterns that they see. The next step here is the mindfulness-based social and emotional learning steps. So with mindfulness-based social and emotional learning, we have the mindfulness piece, which is that really strong self-awareness. We are integrating mindfulness along the whole way to create that presence, the integration, and it's the inside-out approach. And the SEL is the outside-in approach, where we have to have the explicitly taught instruction. So these are the 6 steps that are outlined here for how to push ourselves to expand our comfort zone. You'll notice here that it talks about the heart strategy. That is within my teacher's guide for one of my children's books. So this is a download that you can do that has lessons in it. I would highly encourage using and doing this if you haven't already, and you can always adapt it. But there is a strategy within there, but you don't have to use it, and you can use your own strategy if you wish. So I've linked that here. Then there's a mindfulness practice where we're integrating this, and students are going to visualize how they can move into their new expanded comfort zone. So they're going to picture something that they really want to accomplish in their life, and they're going to feel it, see it, be it in their mind, and use that as their mindfulness strategy. So you'll find that here. And then after they've experienced the 5-step moment in mindfulness practice, there's an expanded comfort zone reflection, which I will say, let me come here. It is the last 2 pages that you can choose from, whether to do both or one of them. So this is one option that they can reflect on afterward, or this one. And what they would be doing is adding within the circles what kind of came up during that visualization for them. Then down below here, they're just additional discussion prompts. Maybe there's something, if you have additional time, you might want to engage in. Maybe these are prompts throughout the rest of the week as a circle, or even throughout the month, the grading period, however you feel it works best for your students if you want to engage in those deeper levels of reflection. And then there's a closing circle of what is one courageous step you can take to step into the growth zone. So this is after they've done their mindful reflection on that tool or both tools, then they would share out within the circle. These are for after the lesson, perhaps on another day, depending again on your timing. But these are application practice ideas. And this is so that your students can actually embody those skills. So we've done the learning, now we're going to apply it. And these are a couple different examples. I don't have just one example for you to do because it's going to directly affect and connect to your students. And every class is different. There are different strengths. There are different interest levels. So look to see which one makes sense for you. And if you need someone to brainstorm with, you can always reach out. We can always do embedded coaching together if we would like. I have included in the lesson plan feedback frames for you. So as they've learned their skills, these are ways that you can have a heart-centered approach for providing feedback. There are modifications and differentiation considerations to think about and know, as well as the heart-centered considerations. And knowing that, I want to highlight here that we have to be aware not to push our students too far out of their comfort zone, just like ourselves. We don't want to push ourselves too far out because that's when other types of emotions or behaviors come and they might escalate. But we also want to be able to give nudges, because if we don't have a nudge, we're not going to take action in our life. So there is that gray area and being able to talk about the emotions that come up as we grow. So there's a couple other considerations there that I just want to make sure that you are aware of. And then there's a family connection at home. So these are some strategies that you can, if you're using, like, for example, Seesaw or other types of online platforms, that you might want to push out to families so that they can be practicing these at home to help them with getting the skill, as well as our students with the skill and ourselves with our skills. There's also a data collection piece. So those anchor charts, you might want to take a picture of them. And then after you've done the learning, the practices, maybe this has been something that you're focusing on, again, for either a grading period, a month, a week, and then have them reflect again and put their dots, maybe a different colored dot up again or sticky note up again, and notice a difference. So you can take a picture of a before and after. But if you want to have more of an individual data collection tool, there is one on this next page that you can take anecdotal notes on to help you push students how they need to grow. And then actually this last part, I really should put first, but I know if I put it first that as teachers we kind of bypass them. But really this should be the first step, and this is that embodiment piece. So before you're even teaching this lesson, as I've shared, embed it into your own life. Engage in those reflection questions that you're going to be having students engage in. Notice where in your life you're holding yourself back. Notice where you're in your comfort zone, where you're in your growth zone. What emotions come up for you? Are there certain situations that you connect with or don't connect with, and that push you or don't push you? So just notice that, and then make a commitment to yourself to take small daily actions to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Because as we get used to being out of it in safe, small ways, we can expand our resilience, and that's how we grow, especially within and beyond our classrooms. And I wanted to mention here as well this reminder, and I want to speak it out loud here, that every time we take a courageous step outside of our comfort zone, it expands our resilience. What we once thought was impossible became possible. Every small action you take matters. Ready to take the step into what's possible in your life. So just think about that. And again, if you want to connect, or if you want to engage in transformational coaching and really connect that to yourself, because we know our well-being is really the most essential and important part within our classroom and practices. And as we develop these skills within ourselves, then that is reflected back into and with our students. So please feel free to reach out. And I hope that you are inspired by this lesson. I know it's a little bit longer of a video, but I hope that this is helpful and empower your students. So I can't wait to see what's possible. And as always, the butterfly within me sees, honors, and values the butterfly within you. Thank you.